Hi, I'm Dr. Bob Flower of the Gilchrist Institute, and here's our young student and professional to be. Why don't you introduce yourself, Anthony?
My name is Anthony Fontanello, and I attend the College of Mount St. Vincent, and I am currently a communications major.
Okay, thank you, Anthony. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to get into an issue. We're going to create an issue here, and we're going to try and resolve it as best we can, and do an analysis and a design for Anthony. We've kind of discussed earlier what his concern is, so we're going to start by addressing that. Okay. So the first thing I want to do is with this program is we're going to have 3 columns here. Issues. Okay. Because it's never one issue. There's always other issues. Okay. So Anthony, why don't you tell us what are your plans? You're in communications.
Yes.
Right. What do you hope to do?
Well, I hope to eventually become a sports broadcaster and work for companies such as either ESPN, CBS, ABC, and so on.
Okay, so you're looking for one of the big time names.
Big time names, yep.
All right, so that's very positive. You got yourself on the right track. You're looking to shoot as high as you can, yeah. Right? Okay, good. Now, sports broadcasting. All right. So let's talk about that. Now, what might be your concerns with that? What are some of the things that you have to do to ensure that you're going to get into it and eventually be successful?
Yeah. Well, first, one of the most important things, you have to be very organized with your work.
Okay.
And another thing is you also have to have very good personality.
Right.
You know, you can't be monotone. You gotta be outgoing.
Right. Okay. So, would you say that organizing yourself would be a successful undertaking in this area would be a major factor?
Yeah, organizing would probably be one of the most important factors.
Okay. All right. So, organizing. Okay. Organize. All right. So now, how do you define organization? What do you have to do to be organized?
To be organized, you have to have your notes in place. You got to know what you want to talk about, when you want to talk about it. You just sit there, write things down.
Okay. All right. So what you're describing now, we have these laws of potential that we had discussed at some time, the 13 laws of potential. Okay. Yes. So organization is 6 of those 13 laws. Right, so it's important that in order for you to ensure your success, that we're going to cover as much of that as is possible. All right. All right. So what you're talking about right now is a process. You're talking about processes that you're going to be involved in. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So let's that's good. Let's process. All right. 1 down, 5 to go, all right, of the organizational principles. What else do you have to do?
You got to be on time with what you're doing. You always have to do things in a very timely manner. Normally, you're going to have to arrange and have all your stuff like at least like hours before, maybe even a day before what you want to do.
Okay, so you're talking about
measurements. Yep.
Measurements, right? You even your timing in your presentation as well, right?
Yes.
Not only in your notes and things that you're going to be preparing. Okay, so we have number 2, measure. All right, very good. Number 2 down. All right, what else do you have to do to organize for your career?
Well, what else you have to do is you should be very knowledgeable in what you're talking about. You should always look up, check backstories. You always want to have proof of what you're going to be talking about.
Okay, so you're going to do a little research.
Doing research, right? Yep.
And you're going to look for a past model.
Past events, models.
Right?
Yep.
Okay, modeling is the 3rd of the organizational principles, all right? So far you're doing very well. we're going to, since we're not that familiar, you're a young guy, you've
Yeah.
never done this before, you want to go back and you want to look at what other people have done or how it's done so that you can then inform yourself, right? Okay, so we're at the third one, which is model. Another word for this is imitation,
Yeah,
right?
correct.
You want to imitate something that's been Vince Scully, right? And so far as a personality is concerned,
Yeah.
right? Or a sense of delivery of like you said earlier, being in contact with your audience. Okay, what else do you have to do for organization?
For organization, you should know probably what your style is as to how you can get things together, because two people aren't the same. I may organize things a different way than say someone else may. You gotta have, you gotta be different, you gotta be unique.
Okay, all right. So, all right, let me ask you this question. Different or
Okay.
unique? Would you, there's a segment of organizational principles, I want to see how you can fit this in, which we call details.
Okay.
Okay? So this is a detail, right?
Correct, yeah.
That you have to investigate and you have to try and adapt to.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
So how do you feel about the detail being something that you need to do? Are you good with that? I mean, how does insofar as your personality is concerned?
Well, I'm good at paying attention to detail, which is a very important thing you always need to do, because you can't be very vague with your organizations and what you're going to be talking about. You always have to talk about things in great detail, and with that, you got to know. You just have to back to research. You got to research. You got to research your sources. You have to just be very, very particular what you're talking about.
All right, so we're going to go into number 4, detail, but there's something else that you raised here that I'm going to put over here.
Okay.
Right? You said you have to be unique.
Unique.
Okay. So there is something in the laws of potential that we call dynamics, right? And personal human dynamics. And there's roughly about 8 of them that we use. There are more, but there's about 8 of them that we use. One of them is uniqueness. We all have these, like for instance, control is one. We want to have a certain control. Power, we want to have a certain power. We all want to be recognized, okay? We also want to be inclusive. We want people to take us in.
Yeah.
But by the same token, we want to be exclusive, right? So that's what you're talking about here. So these are what we call core human dynamics. Okay? Now, if we need to go into something else, we'll build some more columns here, because there are other factors, such as what we call the great restrictors, right? But before I get to them, I want to ask you, what's another organizational factor that you might, that you may want to or need to undertake?
I would say probably another big thing about organization and just getting your things together would probably be the way you organize your topics. How about like the way you present things? Because some people might not take it a good way. You have to find the way that people take what you're trying to tell them. You can say all the right things, but if you present it a wrong way, it's never going to come across good.
Okay, so what you're telling me, I think, is that in order to do that, you have to present an entire picture that's going to incorporate as much as possible so that you're not leaving anybody out.
Exactly.
Or you're not causing any confusion. right?
Exactly.
Okay, all right. So what we're talking about there is the whole picture.
The whole picture.
Right? Okay, great. You're doing terrific. Last one. What do you think?
Okay, I would say another one would probably have to be. I think personality is a big thing.
Okay.
You have to be. You just have to have a very good personality. You have to be very approachable, especially in the communication field.
Okay.
Because who's going to want to talk to you if you're not an approachable person?
Okay. All right. Personality is communication. It's expression,
yeah.
right?
Expression.
Okay. We have under the creative or planning stage. This is planning here, which is part of the 13. All right. You have A, which is awareness. B, which is concept or belief.
Yeah.
And then C, you have communication, which is what you're talking about now, right?
Correct.
You're talking about expressing yourself in a professional, suitable fashion. Okay, so that's personality. All right, we're going to put personality here. Personal character, right? Okay, still need one more here. Still need more here. Let me ask you a question. What happens when, like, you're in training, or let's say you're on the ESPN, and you're doing your thing and you're going along great, and all of a sudden you make a mistake? What happens? How do you organize yourself to minimize that, or maybe turn it over, turn it into a positive or something?
I think a big thing is probably not getting too caught up on the mistakes. You got to be very good at improvising. It's probably one of the biggest things you have to do, because there's always something that's going to go wrong.
Okay.
Nothing is ever going to be smooth.
Okay.
You always got to have a backup and a backup to the backup.
Okay. All right. So how do you do that? What is it? What's the process involved that enables you to do that? That you can now, turn something like that into a positive. Give me an idea what that might be.
Well, I would think of a scenario. Let's say I'm announcing a game, and I pronounce someone's name wrong. I gotta have something in the back of my head that's like the audience can laugh at, so it's not awkward for everyone. I would go through scenarios in my head as to like what could go wrong, and then I got to think about it.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. So what you're talking about in laws of potential terms is not only feedback, it's what we call self-organization.
Yep.
Okay? You have you look for the wherewithal to correct yourself on the fly. So that's what you're describing to me.
Yeah.
Okay? So this is, it's a form of feedback. Okay?
Okay.
So if for instance, let me see how you handle this. You're doing the announcing and you make a mistake. Okay? You give the wrong score.
Oh yeah.
Okay? And you do it a second time, right? And then one of the directors, producers says, "Hey, Tony boy, you're making mistakes here. Twice you had the wrong mistake." And you say, it's only happened today. It won't happen again.
Yeah.
I don't do it again. How would you approach that type of thinking?
Well, I would have to go over what made me make that mistake. Was it because I didn't see the whole thing through and just assumed? Which is never a good thing. You never want to assume. That's probably one of the biggest things about mistakes, is that you always assume that there's going to be a different outcome. And then you could say it, you could talk about it, but then if that outcome never happens, then you're sitting there and
So you're not hiding the fact.
you don't want to hide the fact.
Right.
No.
You want to deal with it.
Yeah.
Right. You want to be open. You want the feedback. You want the communication. Right. hey, Anthony, you're not focused enough today. You know, it's too much wine, whatever it is. You know, you're not at your peak. You want to be open to that, so that's going to make you stronger, greater potential. Okay, right? Okay, so we have self-organization. And what you're doing is you're looking at, if a mistake occurs in different areas, how do you correct it right then and there, and maybe even turn it into a joke or turn it into something positive, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay, all right. So now, all right. So this is great. You successfully identified in your thinking the 6 components of organizing your career. Okay, excellent. Now, insofar as the system is concerned and the audience is concerned, this is a methodology that I would use to analyze a student's ability. Right? Now, we did not discuss this before time. The only thing we discussed before time is what sort of a subject matter Anthony wanted to cover. When I see somebody who's thinking is going to these principles, I can make a very positive analysis of their outcome. All right, anybody could. These are all the essentials of organizing. So, insofar as organizing is concerned, Anthony is a great candidate for the job, and he's well on his way to reaching his potential. If we jump over here to the planning part, he's got the C down, the communications, the character, because he's telling us here that you need personality. You need to be able to communicate very effectively. Correct?
Yeah.
Right? Okay. And let me ask you this. In planning this career, I mean, your focus is in sports broadcasting.
Correct.
Right? And is there a difference, as far as you're concerned, between broadcasting the media? I mean, is it going to be newspapers? Is it going to be radio? Is it going to be television? Do you have a preference? Or how open are you to, you want to go into TV, but somebody says, look, I don't want you in TV. You know, you're too big, or you're ugly, or something like that, okay? But you'd be perfect for radio. You got a great voice, okay? What do you say?
Well, I'm open to doing whatever it is I need to do to work my way up. If they say I'm not cut out for TV, radio I think would be a perfect thing. That's something that is just, you can do very well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your belief system is open.
My belief is open. I'm an open person.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Excellent. You can't achieve potential if you have a closed mind. The only time you're going to achieve potential with a closed mind is if you've got all of this undercover and you're very, very clear and you're on it and you say, this is it. And even then, you have to be flexible, right?
Yeah.
So you got to be open. Your belief system has to be flexible. Got it? Okay. And your focus, another word for focus, the A, is awareness. Speak to me about awareness in how you're going to plan your career in sports broadcasting.
Sure. Well, I got to be aware about what are the new trending things going on. Let's say I'm in sports broadcasting. I got to think of I got to be aware of the new terms that are coming up for maybe something that's going on. If I'm announcing a baseball game, you know, I can't. It's not going to be It's not going to be appealing to young people if I'm speaking or I'm talking about very old things, you know, things that happened in the past. Because people nowadays, they always want to know what's next, what's in the future.
Right. Okay.
I gotta maybe I even have to come up with some new things. I gotta be innovative.
Right. Okay. New bats.
Yeah.
College, right?
Yeah.
They use the metal bats. You know, maybe the pros. You know, maybe in a very boring ball game, you're going to start talking about what would happen in professional baseball if they went to the metal bat,
Yeah.
and started, right? So what you're doing there is you're enhancing your consciousness. You're going deeper, and you're not just being shallow, as you said. You're not going into old things and repeating yourself and repeating the same process,
Yeah.
a rote type of thing, right?
Yeah.
You're not. You're being profound. You're being innovative. You're being you're getting into a higher level. Okay, so higher. We're gonna say over here a higher awareness. Okay, all right. We have one more area to cover. So far we have 9. There's 4 left, and those 4 we call the functional. All right, this is how you act. Now, functional, there's only 4 ways in which you function, Anthony.
Yep.
Anybody. Physically, mentally, emotionally, and intuitively. Okay? Run those over to me. How are you going to address those 4 things in your career, in your preparation for your career anyway? Physically, or to start wherever you want.
Well, physically, I would say if you're on TV, you gotta dress well. You gotta know what looks good, what looks good for you. You gotta present yourself in a very appealing way.
Look good. Okay. All right. Appealing. Okay. Very good. Next, you got mental, emotional, and intuitive.
Mental. I would say for mental, you always gotta have a good open mindset. If you're very closed and your mindset, if you're always thinking of what could go wrong, most likely it will go wrong.
Okay, so that's a little different now. Now you're talking about polarity, okay? Good and bad, plus and minus, good and bad, okay? So you want to watch, you want to be aware of that stuff,
Yeah.
all right? Earlier on, you had talked about having the knowledge.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely.
So knowledge has a lot to do with the mental side, okay? Knowing the subject matter.
Yeah.
Knowing where you can divert yourself to other areas, okay? Emotionally or intuitively?
So emotionally, I believe being a very emotional, very outgoing announcer can bring you to farther things. Like, I know personally, I love when I can watch an ESPN highlight. A lot of people love when the announcer just has that raw emotion of just the in the moment play. That's like one of the very big things that people really like to see.
Outward emotion,
Yeah,
right? Arousing people,
correct.
right? Outward, let's say arousing. Okay, great. Intuitive. Now this one, I just covered it a little bit before, but you give me an idea of being intuitive, preparing yourself to be intuitive. Or
Yeah.
getting it.
So what you want to do to be intuitive with anything or announcing, I would say, you want to just be you want to put forward things that people can understand. You also want to understand it yourself, because if you don't understand what's going on in the game, how can you announce the game? You have to just be you got to be very knowledgeable about it. Also, another thing I actually like is taking in your surroundings, having positive feedback, even negative feedback. You always want to improve
Right,
on what you're doing.
All right, okay. So, all right. Let me ask you this.
Okay.
Give me an idea of how you would be intuitive. You have a boring ball game that you're broadcasting. How do you intuitively? How can you employ something intuitively to pick it up?
Yeah. Maybe I could I would sit there. Maybe I would think about things that are happening around the United States. Just talk. You got to talk about other things. Let's say if the ball game is very boring, and like you're just sitting there, you got to sit there. Oh well, another strikeout. Oh, that guy's out too. You got to sit there, and I would say, oh, did you hear about they were thinking about putting in metal bats in the MLB?
Okay.
They were thinking about putting sensors in their helmets and things like that.
That's what I was looking for. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yes, right. New, unique concepts, thoughts, approaches. Right?
Correct.
You've successfully approached the 13, okay? I would, if I'm doing an analysis for ESPN and they want to know how does this young man stack up insofar as future broadcasting is concerned, I would show them this whole scenario, and I would tell them that I would rate Anthony with a big A, right? Because of the fact that you're encompassing all 13 of these principles, and you're taking in a few other things too. You're taking in core human dynamics. Your uniqueness is very applicable to the field that you chose, and you're being aware polarity is a very big thing, okay? You don't want to get down. It's like a football team that's first quarter they're down 21-0,
Yeah.
Can't quit. Got to be in there.
You always got to think there's still more time.
That's right.
There's always tomorrow.
Right, and there's more stories to tell, more things to do, right? Anthony? Terrific. You're going to have a great career. Thank you for participating. Anthony the college again?
The College of Mount St. Vincent.
College of Mount St. Vincent here in New York City. Hope you enjoyed the presentation. Be talking to you soon. Thank you.